There are moments when you speak into the air and wonder if anyone's really listening. You whisper a prayer, maybe louder some days, maybe just in your head, but nothing changes. No answer, no shift, just more silence. And in that silence, your mind starts to speak louder than your faith. You ask yourself, is God ignoring me? Did I mess up? Am I just not worth responding to? You replay your prayers like voicemails no one checks. You ask and ask. You wait. You cry. You try. And still, silence. It begins to feel like you're talking to the ceiling, like the heavens are closed, like you're invisible. And what hurts more than the problem you're praying about is the feeling that you've been left alone in it. You try to believe. You tell yourself, he's there. But there's a part of you that wonders if he's forgotten, or worse, if he heard you and just didn't care. That thought haunts you more than the silence itself. The idea that maybe God just doesn't want to answer. Maybe you've been told that if your faith was stronger, you'd feel closer, that if you just prayed harder, God would speak louder. But you've done all that. You've prayed with tears. You've fasted. You've begged. You've stayed up at night with open hands and an aching heart. And still, heaven stayed quiet. What no one tells you is that even the faithful feel this way. David, the man after God's own heart, cried out in the Psalms, "Why, O Lord, do you stand far off? Why do you hide yourself in times of trouble?" Jesus himself, hanging on a cross, said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" If they felt that silence, it's okay that you do too. The silence isn't a sign of abandonment. It's not proof you're failing. Sometimes, silence is the space where faith is forged. It's the place where you stop chasing feelings and start holding on to truth. Maybe God isn't ignoring you. Maybe he's building something in you. Strength, patience, depth. Maybe silence isn't punishment. It's preparation. Faith isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just the choice to keep praying when everything in you says to give up. It's choosing to whisper, "God, I trust you," when you're not even sure he's listening. That's not weakness. That's real faith. Because real faith isn't built in moments when God feels close. It's built in the desert, in the dark, when nothing makes sense, and you show up anyway. When your prayers echo back in silence, it doesn't mean God is gone. It means you're being invited to grow roots, not just reach for signs. Roots that go deep, strong enough to stand when storms hit. God's silence isn't rejection, it's refinement. It's the kind of silence that grows warriors, not just worshippers. You might not feel his presence, but faith isn't about feelings. It's about trust. Trust that he's working even when you can't see it. Trust that the seed is growing even when it's buried. Trust that silence doesn't mean absence. It means God is up to something you just can't see yet. Sometimes, what feels like silence is actually space. Space for you to breathe, to reflect, to realize that your faith was never meant to depend on feelings alone. God's not a vending machine. He's not obligated to respond just because we speak. And yet, he always hears. Every word, every tear, every sigh you can't even put into words. You may not see the answer right now, but God doesn't waste anything, not even your waiting. The unanswered prayer, the delayed breakthrough, the silence. It's all part of the story, a story that stretches you, that deepens your dependency, that rewrites what you thought faith was supposed to feel like. You don't have to pretend it doesn't hurt. God isn't intimidated by your doubt. He doesn't withdraw when you're honest. In fact, that's where intimacy is born, in the raw places where you admit, "I'm hurting," and still say, "But I won't walk away." That's where your relationship with him becomes real, not shallow, not religious, but real. Maybe God is silent because he wants to show you something louder than words, his faithfulness. Maybe he's letting your faith speak back to him before he responds. Or maybe he's just closer than you think. And the silence isn't distance, it's intimacy. It's like when someone you love sits next to you without speaking, not because they don't care, but because they don't need to explain their presence. You just know they're there. What if this silence is sacred? What if this is where you learn to trust without evidence, believe without proof, and love God even when you don't feel him? That kind of faith changes you. It matures you. It turns prayer from a wish list into a lifeline, a real connection, not a transaction. And maybe, just maybe, this whole time, while you've been asking, "God, can you hear me?" he's been gently whispering, "Can you trust me?" Not because he wants to test you, but because he wants to build you. He wants you strong, not just loud, rooted, not just emotional, unshakable. One day you'll look back at this silence and realize it wasn't empty. It was full of purpose. That in the quiet, God was doing his deepest work. He wasn't ignoring you. He was holding you, sustaining you, making sure you didn't build your faith on feelings, but on truth, on him. And when the time is right, not your timing, but his, you'll hear his voice again. Maybe not in thunder, maybe not in words, but in peace, in clarity, in doors that open, in strength you didn't know you had, in the realization that you didn't just survive the silence, you were transformed by it. He never stopped listening. He never walked away. He was closer than you knew, even in the quiet. Maybe this silence isn't where your faith ends. Maybe it's where your faith finally wakes up. Have you ever gone through a season where God felt silent? What did that silence teach you?